Swear you call me in somewhere. Your words have never been so devious. The way you lay your hands on me, connected.
It's been a while now, and I think you know. Cause it follows you around like your own shadow. It's hard, but it's just what you need. So get on your knees and make a path for mercy. So get on your knees. It's been a while now, and I think you know. Cause it follows you around like your own shadow. It's hard, but it's just what you need. So get on your knees and make a path for mercy. It's hard. It's just what you need. It's been a while now, and I think you know. Cause it follows you around like your own shadow.
I've got a chance to survive, please. Staring in these two kaleidoscope eyes. Pull me in and pull me out of this line. I'm stuck inside my first state of mind. I drown in an ocean, I can't do a thing. I try to find a way, but I can't seem to speak. Oh, my serotonin, can you hear it running? This feeling's got me choking on the air I breathe. The air I breathe.
We're just about ready to start here, guys. Let's get this going.
Distance nerding.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, it is that time, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thursday. It is a good day for another episode of Distance Nerding Interviews. And guys, we've got another fun guest here for the show. I'm really excited about this one. We are going to get to this, but of course, before we jump into all this, I'm just jumping headfirst right into this. Just so everybody knows, it is a solo show with me today. I am the only host on the show tonight. The other hosts had other things that popped up tonight. So let's see if I do well again on my own, because this has been happening more and more often. But it's okay. It's fine, guys. With this, ladies and gentlemen, before we jump into all the things, all the fun stuff, and we get into this interview, ladies and gentlemen, this show is brought to you by the good folks over at, I'm sorry, I need to get to their screen. Good folks over at W. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. W is a brand of energy drinks created to help focus, concentration, reaction time with no jitters or crash. W contains no maltodextrin, no sugars, no fillers, no artificial colors or dyes. Guys, find out more about W at www.w.gg. Use the code NERDING10 and get 10% off your order. Guys, it is delicious. There are so many flavors that they have with W now, and I've tried a few of them. I don't own them like I normally do, but it's great stuff, guys. We bring it to all the cons. When you guys see us at Comic Cons, we will usually have W with us, and you can try out the different flavors that we have. So again, if you go to w.gg, use the code NERDING10 and get 10% off your order. Well, now that the sponsor is put out there, actually, you know what? Hold on. I've got one more sponsor. Don't have anything on screen to do this because they are a fairly new sponsor for us, but we've been working with them for years. So it's nothing new, guys, but it's new for me to mention on the show, and I might as well just start doing this for every episode. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the wrong one. I wrote a nice little pretty thing here for them. So right there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this show and everything we do at Distance Nerding is currently brought to you by the good folks over at Colossus Girl Entertainment. That's right. Colossus Girl Entertainment, the powerhouse behind some of the most fan-focused conventions on the West Coast. Catch the excitement all year long at Beaver State Comic Con, Metal Art Comic Con, Anna Medford, Tri-Cities Powerhouse Comic Con, which is their latest show, Silver Age Comic Con, and of course the always epic Gem State Comic Con. From comics to collectibles to celebrity guests, cosplay artists, and family-friendly fun, Colossus Girl Entertainment brings the community together with unforgettable fan experiences. Don't miss your chance to join the adventure. Check out their full lineup at colossusgirlent.com. That is colossusgirlent.com, and plan your next con today. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, I have done enough sponsor shout outs. So now it's time to big up my guest for the night. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are bringing the heat, nerds, because our guest is an indie powerhouse. He may not say he is, but after all the research I did, he is an indie powerhouse. The creator of the neon-drenched cyberpunk world, Cyber Symbiosis, and the chaotic cult favorite, which I understand after reading, Sad Hot Dog Man, the 5E, that is 5th edition compatible space adventure starring everyone's favorite depressed hot dog. He's a writer, world builder, tabletop designer, and a creative engine behind Miniature Dragon, the imprint publishing, pushing comics, zines, and RPGs into wild new territory. Ladies and gentlemen, get hyped and help us welcome the one, the only, Woody freaking Arnold.
Hi. I don't know that I can live up to all that. I've never been hyped that much ever.
You know, what's funny is that's something that I tend to hear a lot on the shows. People are like,
yeah.
"Man, I've never been hyped like that." Okay, cool. Well, I'm the first one to hype you like that, and hopefully you get hyped like that for the remainder of your entire career.
Well, thank you. I do have to put a correction. I actually didn't create this Sad Hot Dog Man. I just adapted it. My wife and my friend Alex, who come with me to shows all the time, were the lunatics behind that weird idea.
Right, and actually, I did write something specifically about having you tell the story, because I know the story. You guys told me the story about how it all happened, but I definitely want you to talk about that. But I have a couple things I want to kind of like build up and kind of get your backstory a little bit before we even get into that kind of stuff. So with that being said, before we get into your story, we want to learn a little bit more about you. So we have a couple of questions that we asked for our audience to get to know you a little bit better. We have a segment on our show called Growing Up Geeky. What did you geek out on when you were a kid?
Well, I think the probably that started with Star Trek, the original Star Trek, because I watched that with my dad. I got pretty hooked on that. I remember feeling very tense, with some of the dangers that Kirk would get into and Spock and McCoy. And of course, it's, from today's perspective, not that dramatic, but I love it. And I remember watching Star Blazers, which is actually called Space Battleship Yamato, which I didn't learn until years later.
Yeah.
God, I love that show. And Buck Rogers, all that stuff back then. And it just kept going from there.
Awesome, man. I mean, I enjoyed that stuff in syndication because I'm a little bit younger, but I mean, like, Buck Rogers is a big inspiration. And I mean, it inspired Star Wars. Like, to an extent, it's not the only thing, but I mean, that was one of the things that inspired Star Wars. And I love that they're talking about doing an adaptation of that soon. Like,
I hope they have Gil Gerard involved if they do.
Gil Gerard passed away, so
he did.
Yeah,
I didn't hear that. Oh my god! Well, I just met him at Comic-Con a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was recent. It wasn't something that was. I want to say this was like in the last 2 years.
It's funny. I went and looked up one of my old employers some years back, and it was like right as COVID was winding down. I tracked him down. We had a little conversation. It was really nice, and then apparently he just passed away within like a month after seeing me. Yeah. So it's like. That's super weird.
No, so I have my information wrong. Someone told me recently that he had passed, and that's why he wasn't doing cons. But it might just be he's not doing cons because he's older now. He's still alive.
I think he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I would hope he's involved too. And now that I know he's still around, what they're saying right now, the person who is producing it is and who may be playing Buck Rogers is all of a sudden I'm forgetting his name. He was at one point he was considered the most handsome man in the world.
Ryan Reynolds.
No, older. It was in the 90s. But he was ER, man. What is it?
Clooney.
Yeah. So supposedly Clooney is executive producing, and he may be starring.
That's interesting. Well, they did do an attempted relaunch at one point. I remember where somebody did try to do a web series back when web series was the big hype thing,
right?
And they got I know Gil Gerard, and I think the lady that was I forget her name, but the lady that was his opposite on the show, the female lead, and I think the two of them were in it playing Flash Gordon's parents. They did one little pilot episode just to kind of hype it, and I don't think it ever went any further. But that I like it when they do this stuff like that, because like the people that were involved in making this thing great and marketable and interesting, to give them these cameos and new roles and things. It's very classy. I think it's very nice.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And I mean, if Gil Gerard is interested in still wanting to be a part of the project, I would love to see him on there. I mean, it's that is one of my favorite things, is when there's the nods to the original. So like almost every iteration of the Hulk has had, somebody from the original 70s series involved in it, to the point where I've always liked that they've done that. It's like, okay, here is a nod to just everybody who's involved in that. Like there were a lot of nods to Bill Bixby in a couple of them, or I think one of them there was a scene where he was watching something on TV and it was like an old Bill Bixby movie.
I thought that part with Lou Ferrigno playing the security guard in that first one that Marvel did was pretty fun too.
When he gives him the pizza.
Yes.
Yeah. And Lou Ferrigno, up until Avengers, did the voice in the live action, so he was still doing the voice for the Hulk.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, when they went up until they did Avengers, and when they did Avengers, they changed it to I'm forgetting everybody's names right now.
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo started doing the voice for the character. But like before that, it was Lou Ferrigno that was doing the voice. Nice. Which was kind of, I thought that was a cool nod too. Is like, oh yeah, anytime you see the Hulk on screen, it's Lou Ferrigno doing the voice.
Yeah.
So another question again, just to kind of get an idea of kind of your background, and we've gotten a lot right now, but if a movie was made based on your life, who would play you and why?
Oh, my life would not be good material for a movie. I'm actually going to break ranks with you on this one. I'm just going to say that movies should never be made. If you want to make a movie based on me, or something like based on something I'm involved with, make it based on one of my stories.
Nice.
Like I've got some that I think are good. I've got a whole file of things I'm hoping to make. And of course, I've got all these things. So what I'd actually what I'd like to do is I'd like to take the first issue of my Cyber Symbiosis comic book and turn that into an animated short. I think that would be a lot of fun. But it's more money than I have right now. So
I imagine. But I mean, like, man, if you get that in the right hands, I mean, that is a pitch book in itself, right?
Yeah. What's interesting about that, if you don't mind me interrupting, so the actual comic draws a lot. Yes, there it is. It draws heavy inspiration from an RPG game that I had ran many years ago, which was actually written specifically for the purpose of creating the comics, it was played for the purpose of developing the comic series. And the first issue was basically beat for beat what happened that night when the guys were playing. And I specifically wanted to create a story that was like unambiguous about them being the good guys, regardless of what direction things went after that.
Right.
So it also was actually, I think, good advice for a lot of creators too, in how I did it, because when you're making a comic book, a lot of guys have these big ideas of what they want to do. And this wasn't my first rodeo by far, but like the idea was to create something where even if it didn't go anywhere, at least the first issue is a complete story.
Right.
Because for a lot of creators, that's maybe all you're ever going to do. And so it's actually, I think, good advice. Like, don't back yourself into a corner with something that you can't actually accomplish.
Yeah, man. I you know what's funny? I've heard this story from a couple of different comic creators, but they haven't gone the level where you've taken it, where it's like, okay, it like becomes full circle, where it's like, okay, it started as an RPG campaign,
Yeah.
became a comic book, and then now there's an RPG based on
Right.
the comic.
Yeah,
And it's
that is weirdly weird symmetry.
yeah, I love the full circle nature of that.
Yeah.
And again, like we talk to a lot of comic creators that it's exactly how the story in their comic comes out. Is I was playing an RPG one night and we took that story and turned it into a comic book, and now it's a comic book. And you know, again, I love that concept because it's so creative to do something like that, especially when you're doing something on the fly in a tabletop RPG. So like it's the nature of TTRPGs that are just it makes it that much more fun. So I mean,
do you mind if we respond to that question you just had on the screen from one of your viewers?
yeah.
Well, because I think that's actually a really important question, and I think we are, but I think we're at the beginning of one, because back in the day, you know, the 80s used to be that every company had their own game engine.
Yep.
And you want to play a different game, you had to learn how to play this game, whether you're playing, you know, Palladium or whatever TSR is doing, or White Wolf, whatever it is, right? But then when we had the open gaming license put everything into a very narrow band where you're only playing, like, well, they're very good at marketing their brand, and then suddenly everybody's playing that thing. And then now it's like pulling teeth to get people to play any other game because it's not the rules they like. But then after what happened with Wizards of the Coast in the last couple of years, with their attempting to turn their brand into an absolute monopoly and trying to essentially extort money from their fans, which destroyed their fan base, suddenly you see the shift where we're going back to the way it was in the 80s, where now these other companies that were having this tiny little piece of the pie are carving out larger and larger pieces. And I think we might be seeing like the downfall of D&D happening very slowly, where their market dominance is shrinking back to how it used to be.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, where there's just different games that you can play. I mean, obviously, Stranger Things is getting people back into that tabletop realm, and it's, you know, I mean, a lot of people's especially, well, I would say a lot of people from that I grew up in the 90s, like I did, are you know, our gateway drug was D&D, right? And you know, in the 80s there was a lot more games. I've had conversations with people where it's like, yeah, dude, in the 80s there was like a whole Marvel game, there was like all this other stuff, and they were just like, you know, they ran on their own engines, and it's like, that sounds so fun, right?
And I mean, the one that got me hooked actually what was the Robotech RPG, Palladium Books. And then after that I discovered they had the Ninja Turtles as well, and that was making the rounds before anybody had even seen the comics and in my area.
Yeah, the licensed RPGs in the 80s were amazing, and it's like if you can get the books for those, it's awesome. Because we were having a conversation with someone, and he was telling us about the Marvel RPG, and he was just like, the Marvel game, and I kept thinking like, oh, are we talking video games? He goes, no, dude, tabletop. And I was like, wait, there's a tabletop Marvel game? And that made me start looking into like all the old games from the 80s, and it was like, oh my god, like there's so many good games that just like I have a question later on in regards to this, but talking about Cyberpunk in general, right? Like just how that was a tabletop game before it was anything else. So it's like, man, it's actually let's jump into these questions. Like, you know, before we get into like a lot of gaming and comics and the things like that we're going to talk about, which we kind of have already. But I mean, like, in your origin story, you know, when did you first start writing RPGs? When did it go from I'm playing an RPG to I'm going to write an RPG?
See, that is a hard question to answer because there isn't, and I think this is a story you can hear from a lot of game masters, that there isn't really one time you can lock down, because the very fact of playing an RPG means you're writing RPGs, right? Because if you're a GM and you're creating these adventures and trying to like engage your players, you're writing this content, whether it's actually on paper or not, right? Like, so, but it's just sooner or later, everybody starts developing their own homebrew content, like, oh, this would be a fun monster, or here's a new magic artifact that would be fun, or a piece of technology, whatever. And then maybe you write an adventure, and then sometimes you develop whole worlds for your own homebrew worlds. And so I'm not really sure, like the group that I ended up playing with, which is still persisting in some form. I ended up meeting those guys when I was 18, and it's we were playing this game. I keep getting flack on my other show for always showing this book off. So Greg, if you're watching this, time to take a shot. But we played the Rifts RPG because that's the one I was interested in, and somebody at school said, hey, I know some guys who are playing, so they brought me in, and I ended up becoming the game master of the group. But it's interesting. It's kind of like, if you ever saw Thunder the Barbarian, it's kind of like that dream realized in a role-playing game form.
Yeah. So like, so I guess the question to kind of like roundabout in this would be more so, do you remember about what age you were when you started DMing? Because that's kind of like where it would be like, were you really young when it happened? Did it happen until you were 18?
I mean, I know that when I was in school, when I was around 13, another classmate had introduced me to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which or maybe Basic D&D, I'm not sure. The thing was, I didn't have the bug, it was just doing it because my friend was doing it, not because I was really interested. And the storytelling aspect of it appealed to me very quickly. But it, time, life happens and people move on, and like not every friendship persists. But then like when I happened to walk through a hobby store and I found the Robotech RPG, that's when I got excited because I've been watching the cartoon. Right. And so that, hey, yes, exactly, Mr. Navarro, that hell yeah. But but it's like when I discovered this, because I'm more of a science fiction fan than I am fantasy. And when I discovered the science fiction RPG, I mean, I was all in, right? And so I've still got all the books right here on the shelf next to me, and all the Ninja Turtles books, that I had originally. And I'm so excited for the new ones coming out very soon, but or the Ninja Turtles ones. But like I got I got that, and then I'd known of the Ninja Turtles kind of peripherally, and those started coming out while the Robotech books were coming out. So I, of course, had to buy that because like I needed to know what it was all about, right? And at that point, I was pretty much committed to Palladium books because it had all this cool stuff that I wanted.
Cool, that's awesome, man. Were you a fan of Cyberpunk Red when it came out?
No, I've never even played it.
You've never played Cyberpunk Red?
No, I've never even held any of the books. Cyberpunk's a genre, right? Like what actually inspired me. This is so funny. What inspired me to actually do this was that I was connected with the people that do the Gamers film series, which are made by Dead Gentleman Productions and Zombie Orpheus Entertainment. And so I had briefly been involved with developing some of their content in the comics, but due to whatever behind, I don't know. It's hard to say what happened, but like, it's like you start working on one thing and sometimes there's too many fingers in the pot. And so like, the project I was working on, a lot of development behind the scenes, but nothing happened because like the funding just never materialized, and I couldn't keep, doing it out of my own pocket. But I had been involved with them, and they had done a fan film which was tied into their film series. And if you're not familiar with the Gamers, that's very funny. You basically have people playing the game, and then it cuts to the game world, and they kind of go back and forth, in costume, playing out, but it's kind of weirdly meta. It's like actually it actually plays out like how we actually run at the table, because most of us aren't that serious about how we play the game, and we're not very immersive. But they had done this Cyberpunk one, because most of their stories are fantasy based. And they did a Cyberpunk one, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing, right? And so I thought it was really interesting, and I had initially wanted to develop kind of like a comic book extending that story, and that was never going to happen. But then I kind of started working on my own project, and then later on I discovered that these guys had actually been I don't know how they got away with it, but virtually everything they had was completely taken from Shadowrun. And so I'm not sure how that actually was okay. But it inspired me to kind of like work on my own thing. And so I ended up, as I said, kind of had this idea for a story that had been percolating a while, and I decided to create it by teaming up with some friends to get them to run kind of a role-playing game through the story. And that went as far as it did. And I was originally planning to just kind of use that as an inspiration and write something new, but we had so much fun. I figured, okay, well, let's just tap into the fun aspect of it, with what they were doing, as opposed to being too serious. And so I ended up keeping the characters that my friends had created, which I don't recommend. It's usually not a smart move, but but
No.
it worked out in this case.
No, so I mean, you kind of went to the other one, because the two kind of like pivotal cyberpunk RPGs, like back in the day, were Shadowrun and Cyberpunk Red. And I was surprised that you hadn't played Cyberpunk Red. Like I played Cyberpunk Red. And that's kind of what got me into the cyberpunk genre, outside of the movies that were in cyberpunk and all that kind of stuff, because it's so immersive. And then they made Cyberpunk 2077, which is based on Cyberpunk Red. So
yeah, and it was weird because I was years into development on what I was working on, like easily 2 years into it, before I realized that it was that they were drawing from Shadowrun. Because like my only connection with the game had been where I think one of my friends at my original Rifts group had a copy of the first edition Shadowrun, and they wanted me to play it, and I'm like, I want to try it being a wizard. Like, no, they were like, oh no, it's a bad idea. I'm like, well, I want to do it. So they let me do it. I cast one spell, passed out on the mission, and they just left me there to take the fall for the job while they escaped and got paid. And so my character got arrested, and that was it. And except for like, flipping through the books a little bit, I had absolutely no connection with the game for like 20 years, and it wasn't until I started working on this my own comic book that I had even discovered anything about it. And my main involvement was mostly just like, I should probably learn what other people are doing, because that way I don't want to copy the other guy, and because you could very accidentally play, be so similar that you could be accused of ripping them off. And that's the last thing that I'm trying to do.
Right. And you've mentioned in multiple different places, because I've seen different places that you've cited that Cyber Symbiosis itself, which we're going to start going into Cyber Symbiosis, but that the game itself was inspired by Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell, Pop. What, aside from like Shadowrun and kind of like getting into the games, and you mentioned the gamers and everything, but what kind of drew you to cyberpunk as a genre in particular?
Well, I like cyberpunk. I like sci-fi. I mean, I'm not really wouldn't actually say I'm a cyberpunk fan, but it's like the sci-fi element of it. It is something I like. And it's just, I had an idea for a story, and it was just what fit. But a lot of it actually, admittedly, a lot of the impetus actually came about because I had, the original comic book company that I was working in or involved with was Thunderfrog Studios, and it's no longer around because the original creators passed away. But there was I had developed this comic book for them called the Thunderfrog, where I took their mascot and I created it into like a full 6-part comic series, and that was my one of my 2 big projects at the time that I was doing with them. And I was working very close with my longtime friend Tayson Martindale, who I met doing that comic book. Absolutely fantastic artist. He lives in Canada. You should totally look him up on Instagram. But yeah, he's absolutely a genius, I would say, because it has like this unparalleled. His style is very cartoony, and it sometimes, you look at something like that, you might like say, okay, well, should we not take this guy seriously? He doesn't draw like Marvel or anything. But at the same time, you have this guy has this genius ability to capture emotion and character depth, and like meeting him was probably one of the luckiest breaks of my life, because I've got this guy that I can work, like, who's totally down for anything, and he's this brilliant creator. And so we had made this comic book, but I wasn't able to keep it going just because of circumstances. The finances weren't there at the time, but I had done this, but anyways, I'm getting off topic. There was basically a break where it became the right time to move on and split from Thunderfrog. And so I needed another project of my own that wasn't connected, that nobody else had ownership over. And so I was just looking at all the story ideas I had, and I had 2 possibilities. And, the cyberpunk one happened to just win out because, the whole project with the Gamers franchise was clearly not going anywhere. And
Okay.
so, if I'm going to invest the money, I'd rather invest something where I can take it in whatever direction I want. And, even though I wasn't trying to create an RPG, I wanted to have the freedom to be able to do that. If that was, the option before me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So something I've also noticed, and again, we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but I kind of want to expand on it a little bit. The elements in the story, right? Because it is a cyberpunk and living in a cyberpunk world. Again, for all everybody in the audience, Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell, Cowboy Bebop, that should give you guys an idea of kind of the world that it's in. But there are a lot of noir elements to the story. Were you inspired by classic crime noir, or was that purely just based on like all the cyberpunk stuff that was coming out in the late 70s through the 90s?
It's really funny, actually. You're asking me these questions, and they're very well thought out, but none of them have anything to do with how the story happened. To be honest, what it was it's actually more of like filling in amongst comic book writing conventions, actually.
Okay.
Because sometimes when you're making creative decisions, it actually revolves around like the practicality of how the medium works.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what it entirely was actually, a lot of that was actually meant to make sure that the individual characters in the story, like that nobody's sidelined or marginalized. Right.
Okay.
And so so the idea was to make each character really important at some point. And so the access to some sort of a narration element was just simply, creating a point of view character. Right.
Yeah.
Because like from a storytelling perspective, like with comics, you have the omniscient narrator, and then you have access to the to like the person's thoughts, right? And then but then like there's been a recent trend in comics to not do those things and just have the story and action drive it. But because we have this sci-fi setting where the characters can kind of like dictate events and establish like like they can have video chat and stuff, you almost have this a way to cheat your way through having those narration without having the narration. And it became a new creative way to kind of tell the story and build it up without doing the same thing that everybody else does.
It's very interesting that it's like there are these very prevalent kind of like themes and tropes, and they came naturally to you, which is just saying that that makes you a decent enough writer where it's like,
Thank you.
A lot of times it's like, oh yeah, I was inspired by Hard Boiled, or I was inspired by Chinatown, in the noir aspects of things.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, I didn't go that route. I went for what's the best way to write out this character and what's the best narrative to give it, and that's just good writing.
well, the thing about the comic book medium, which one of the things I'm attracted to on it, is that it has the ability to do things in terms of like presenting the story in a visual way that's both visual and narrative, right? That you don't have in other mediums. Like there's things you can do with time that you can't do in other mediums. And there's the ability to kind of like you can kind of to a degree get into the character's head and get that character's perspective without necessarily like in ways that you can't do on television, right? Because it doesn't always work to have somebody's thoughts as part of the narrative, but you do it and it feels very natural in a comic book form, right? And so and also because like conversely, when you look at like novels and because the writer has to describe everything and you can go overboard with those descriptions. But with the comic book, you just have this, you have this collaborator who's doing the art for you, and a lot of these descriptions are gone because you just have it right there on the page. And
right.
Hopefully you've got somebody that shares your vision or can bring something to it that enhances it, but you still, all these things you don't have to waste time on because they're there. Pages and pages of content is right there in one picture. And so there's a lot of advantages to it. The trick is having that comfortable medium between the two.
Right. So the story itself takes place in an alternate version of Seattle.
Yes.
So between, again, all the inspiration that you had and kind of like the things that the elements of cyberpunk that you had and wanting to create this alternate version of Seattle, what decisions did you have to make on what parts of Seattle you wanted to bring in order to kind of tell that narrative the way you wanted to tell it?
Well, the decision to place it in Seattle was actually the toughest one because that's where Shadowrun is set.
Yeah.
But when you look at Shadowrun's whole setup, the whole thing is ridiculous and it's very over the top, and it falls apart very easily if you think about it too hard. And so it really came down to the fact that we were at a location in Seattle when we started the campaign, right? Like the actual writing, the thing that gave birth to it, the story was in Ballard in Seattle at the what they call the Mox boarding house. It was actually called the Card Kingdom at the time. Do we have something here from them?
No,
Oh, okay. But yeah, so it was called the Card Kingdom, and so that's where we were playing the game, right? Because it was convenient for everybody, for like meeting up with all the people, and so I figured, well, let's have it take place in Ballard, and so if you look at the first issue of the comic book, which you can check it out on my website miniaturedragon.com, but on you'll actually see like the Ballard Bridge, where you go from the community of Ballard straight to Interbay, and then we also destroy the bus stop in front of the Safeway, and if you look really close, you'll also see exactly, and if that's not the first issue, that's issue 2, I believe, but if you look really close, you'll also see that our hacker character is placing a carryout order for the restaurant where we played the game. And
nice.
and there's also a map of the neighborhood that I created as an element that is of where the location where we started. So it's a little Easter egg that nobody's going to get unless I, let you talk to me and find out the history of this whole project. But it was, it's all these little things. And so from there, of course, the story follows the narrative threads, and they kind of get into, whatever the action is, and it kind of just goes where it goes. But considering we started out in Ballard, that obviously everything else kind of emanates from that point. So of course it's Seattle. It's a Seattle-based story. Right.
Did you find any challenges in adapting the concept that you had created? And I know that you had, again, it was a full circle thing. It started with a tabletop campaign that you had done, made a comic book, and then eventually it becomes this giant monster 5e compatible game.
It's misleadingly large. I put a lot in there to make it easy to use.
Yeah. And I mean, it is very descriptive. It gives you everything that you would need for the game. Did you find it difficult, or were there any challenges in adapting anything into the 5e compatible game?
Not really, because I'd already been thinking in RPG terms when I wrote the story, so it wasn't that hard. The real challenge actually was in adapting the original story into the comic book form, and I've actually done rewrites multiple times because translating a story from one medium into another, and you have to give something and you have to lose something. Like, it doesn't translate perfectly. Like, there's always that game session where everybody just does nothing but go shopping, and those sorts of experiences don't translate well to a dramatic narrative.
Right.
So we have had to address stuff like that, and then there was also distilling it down to the core story elements that really mattered, because huge chunks of the story had to be cut because I just, you measure comics in page real estate, right? And so it just when it ultimately wraps up, because I'm planning 3 graphic novels ultimately, but there are story elements that just will go away. But the other side of it is that in developing the comic book throughout the whole process and thinking about what future stories I might want to tell and so forth, the entire all this world building that went into it outgrew the comic book, and there was no way it was ever going to be successful enough to present everything I thought of, and so the RPG, I think, was like a logical direction to go. It was like the only option, because what else was I going to do with all this stuff? I mean, I could write a novel, but I think an RPG game, for the kind of storytelling I was interested in, I think it made way more sense.
Yeah, and it gives your audience a chance to participate. You know, it's really good. I mean, I think that's what we all love about tabletop
Hmm.
is it's yes, there's a story that's there, but you're able to shape that story into something different than
Yeah.
you know what's intended, and you know it becomes like your own. It becomes like a more complicated but more involved choose your own adventure, and that's
Yeah.
the reason we used to read those was because it was fun and stuff like that.
Well, I actually, one of my goals has been to take the complication out of the equation, right? Because like, if you don't mind me going into a philosophical direction,
Oh,
that
please.
like in the RPG industry, it suffers from this huge problem in that, like, even though it's been going on for since the 70s, and it's a very large, very successful industry. It's not the tech industry, right? But it is not going away anytime soon.
Right.
But it has this terrible dependence on people like myself who can run the game, right? But yet we don't have this codified technology for how to create people like me, right? And you essentially have to. The only way you're going to become a game master is by just sitting down to do it and muddling through it and eventually figuring it out. And so a lot of what I've been doing behind the scenes has been trying to figure out how to solve that problem. And I actually do a show with some friends at the Cabot Crossing YouTube channel, where we do a show on teaching game masters how to be a GM, but it's initially aimed at the idea of like people that want to do it, but they don't know how to do it, and bringing in this information at a more fundamental level than what you might be finding in some of the more established games and the materials that they release. Because I go to shows, I'm selling my books, and I'm running into so many people that are excited to play role-playing games but don't know how to do it, or they've drafted somebody in the family to do it, right? Or like they just pick one friend who's the least opposed to the idea, right? And these people don't know what they're getting into. And you talk to these game masters, they're like, they have these big ideas, and it's like, oh, you've never done it before. Oh my God, I am so sorry for you right now, because
That's why I don't DM. That's why I DM. I'd rather be a character. Like literally, yesterday. This week's been a big tabletop week for me. Yesterday I literally did a character creation session. And we're doing a D&D campaign in January, but I decided, and I'm almost regretting it, but DM was giving us the chance to kind of create our own aspects of the character and everything like that. And I said, no, I'm going to roll for everything because that makes it interesting.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, there are some games that are built around that randomization.
Yeah. And it's funny because every aspect of my character ended up becoming me. It is basically the character is me. Right. So I was just like, how did this happen this way? Where I rolled randomly and the character basically decided it's going to be me. He has a crude sense of humor, which I have in spades. He is for the greater good. Our lot is to lay down our lives for others. Someone saved my life in the battlefield, and I will never regret it. But then, of all the fun things I got, for some reason I obey the law even if the law causes misery. Like, cool, I have to be fucking lawful good. I didn't want that. And well, I'm an orc barbarian, so that's gonna make for an interesting character.
Well, oh yeah, no kidding. Well, like where I'm kind of at, like I mean, I've got a book I've written, kind of partially produced. I need to finish it because I was working on it over COVID, but like the C word these days. But like I very much am interested in educating people on how to be a game master, finding some way to do that through the work I've got, expanding my RPG line, because there's a lot of people that if they were they'll try it and they'll fail or run into some difficulty, so they don't want to do it. But like if you understood the fundamentals, which are not that hard, if you have any small amount of ability, just a little bit of practice, and you could be fantastic, right? And that's kind of the genesis of the show we're doing. But I've been putting out books where I've been like releasing articles on how to be a game master in them. I have these monster manuals I'm doing where the start of every one of them has just a little bit of advice on like how to run the game, particularly with, of course, the monsters. But
Mhm.
it's just it's something I'm really interested in, because like I've spent however many years learning all this knowledge, and there's like, how do you share it? How do you because I really do not like the idea that these AI dungeon masters are appearing,
Oh,
right?
God, yeah.
And it carves the heart and soul out of the hobby, and
Yep.
it's that it's not even by communication by definition, because there's no intelligence behind it. There's no origination of an idea, and people that may be their whole experience, but it's completely devoid of vitality, and
Yeah.
So
Yeah, 100%. And that's exactly what I was going to say. Is it takes the heart out of the game in general when you have
yeah,
AI do everything, because also because you don't have a DM that can like work on the fly. It's like, oh, hey, this is not working out the way I thought it was going to. Let's complicate things and throw a wrench in here. Like,
yeah.
I've had that happen before, where it's like, I'm just gonna throw this wrench in here, and it's like, cool, this just made the game that much more difficult, but that's what makes it fun.
Well, for me, as far as like a game mastering technique, like the thing that I've developed over the years is try to focus on the ability to just sit down and do it without necessarily even being prepared. Like I I do prep, but I prep in the direction of resources, not game prep,
Mhm.
because what you need is what a GM really needs versus what people tell you need are two different things.
Yeah.
And what you really need is you need a pool of resources to draw from that allows you to address any situation that comes up, right? And so if you have that, and it's well prepared, then you can sit down, you can run any game at any time. You just have to have enough idea to get the story going, and the rest of it's improv and get your players engaged. But you need these resources so that because you don't want to waste time on prep, because if you're doing all this time on prep, half of it's never going to happen, because you can't predict what the players are going to do.
Right.
All you're doing is wasting your time, and your time's valuable. You deserve to have a life too outside of the game.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God, I've seen the opposite. I've seen people who just live
Right. And
that's all they do.
that's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's fun, but then it's unhealthy when it becomes your life.
I mean, if they're having a good time, great. But for me, I want time to make my books, right? And if I spend all my time prepping for the next game, I've got a wife to pay attention to. I've got some cats here that want to get cuddled. I've got dishes to do. And so there has to be a work-life balance.
Yep.
And as I say during my sales pitch, I firmly believe that being a game master is not going to be a second job. And so when I'm producing these games, the entire goal is to support that philosophy. So I'm providing a product that is enhancing the experience for the people that buy the book. I'm not making more work for you.
Right.
Yeah. At least that's the hope.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've gone over a lot of things here. So speaking of your wife,
yeah,
let's talk a little bit about Sad Hot Dog Man.
Yes. Oh my God, that lunacy.
Oh my God, it is so ridiculous. And after reading
the
book, after reading the book, it's like, oh my God, it's so random, but it's so good, and I can see why.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've heard the story, right?
Right.
Can you tell the audience about how it came together, like how?
Yes.
Yeah.
For some very smart reasons, I won't go into too much detail, as much as I told you off camera, because there might. I'm kind of afraid that I'll tell the story and the guy that was there goes, "That's me." But like we were at Emerald City Comic Con the first year that they were in the new building, and they did not have their act together on the show. There was a lot of things that weren't figured out, like food, and so what happens is there is this just basically there's a hot dog vendor, and something's happening with this hot dog vendor, which I won't go into because who knows, I could be airing some private stuff, but he was clearly having a bad day. And then later on, somebody sees the hot dog vendor's now gone, and there is now a pretzel vendor running both booths, right? So this debate occurs in our booth over what this means, and I have, as I like to describe it, I have the very reasonable explanation, and the one that you probably have as well. And then my wife and my friend came up with this other idea, which was this little 5-page comic book about a hot dog vendor with messed up teeth who's a hot dog. He's a living hot dog who's eating hot dogs, and he's selling hot dogs, and then the business fails, and he gets taken over by this corporate competitor who's a pretzel vendor.
Right.
And it's absolutely bizarre. They whip this thing out in lightning speed. Alex, my partner in many of these activities, he is scary fast when it comes to art. Oh my god! And yeah, because I think he gave you a piece of art when we met you, and he had banged that out in less than an hour.
Yeah,
it's alarming. Yeah, how fast he does this. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so well, yeah, there's that too. So, anyways, yeah, so he whips out this comic book, and then I'm looking at it, and they want to print it and sell it. I'm like, yeah, we need 8 pages. so like we whipped out a cover. I told them, like, they came up with like, okay, advertising for next issue, Sad Hot Dog Man in Space, whatever. And he did like he just did a couple extra pieces of art to fill it out. I took it home, scanned it, printed it, brought it back the next day. We printed a bunch of copies by hand, and they all sold out. Absolutely bizarre. And then we printed some more. They sold out. And then Alex and my wife Shannon started making more of these. And so by the end of that year, we actually had four issues of this little zine that they made by hand, and they all sold amazingly well. Every time we had them, we couldn't keep them in stock. And but then, like, what do we do next, right? And
right.
So I took the stuff, and I made an RPG zine.
Right.
And I jokingly tell my wife that, you know, she was opposed to this because she didn't like the idea, because it was, you know, it like, because she's very much in the purity of the vision of it, like, because it had a message behind it. And so, but then the RPG book,
it is very punk rock.
It is, yes. And
getting into the story on this, because it starts off as just like sad hot dog guy. Now he's gonna walk, and he walks into space, and then it gets like, as you get into like the second and third book, it gets like super punk rock, and I'm like, was not expecting any of that.
No, it's very counterculture, very underground. Yes, but then I do this thing where, like, okay, well, let's make it so you can play a hot dog, and you can play the space elf people, and then, like, what do we call them? So my wife has to make up a name, and then I did the pretzel race, and I kind of modeled them after the Ferengi. So from Star Trek.
Big weird ears, yes.
Right. But see, now that you read their abilities, you'd be like, you can't unsee it, right? Because you look at it, like, everything they do, it's like, oh, right, I get it now. So you know, so I do this initial book, and it sells like crazy. Like, we print these up on my printer over here, and they just blow out the door. My wife's like, suddenly go, oh, this sells, okay. And then she, you know, well, she works for a bookstore, so it's like the idea of selling books is natural to her. So then I make more and more, and they all just keep selling. Like, it's wild, you know, how successful it ends up being. And then we did a compilation book, put together some more content that was going to be the next couple zines, and then that, I think, was fully funded in like 45 minutes or something. And
what?
Yeah,
that's insane.
Well, we also had a very low bar, like, you know, we didn't need that much for it to be able to print it. So, but it did all right, actually. And so that, I think that's the book you've got right there.
Right. This one.
Yeah.
Here.
No, that's the comic book. We also had the RPG book.
So the RPG book I didn't end up getting my hands on.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay. Yeah, well, we're gonna have to fix that.
Yeah, that's the quest for the Gorhan, right?
No, the quest for the Gorhan. Okay, so we have this one here we call the Space Odyssey book, and sadly at the moment it's not available. I have to update it for a digital release on my website. I had a very heavy convention season in the last end of the year, so I'm behind on some of my updates, but I do have this available. So it's the quest for the Gorhan. So it takes the characters from this book and then basically sets them up so you can play that adventure. And God, I really need to put this thing up. I probably will have to do that this weekend. But yeah, it. By the way, fun fact: there's a bit of a Easter egg here. You've seen The Next Generation, right?
Yeah, of course.
Remember the episode where they tried to get Picard laid on Risa?
I don't remember every aspect of the episode, but I remember
well, okay, so Riker says, I need a souvenir from Risa, bring me a Horgon. So Picard's like, sure, I'll do that for you. And then so he's got it sitting on his lawn chair while he's relaxing, but of course it's actually a sex totem, meaning I want to get laid.
That's
And so,
right. That's
and so
right.
all these women kept propositioning Picard, and he didn't know why. And Riker was just trying to mess with him.
Right.
So the Gorhan artifact is actually similar to the Horgon in design, and you'll notice that Gorhan and Horgon have the same letters, right? Because they mixed it up.
It's
Yeah,
an
so,
anagram.
yeah, so the entire adventure is the players are trying to recover a sex totem so that so that one of the pretzel people, the carboids, can propose to the woman he wants to get married to.
Carboids.
Yeah.
Love that. Man, it is so wild, man. And it's funny. We were talking about specifically about how I don't remember. I brought it up on Threads a while back. And I had proposed to the nerd community. What is more horny, Star Wars or Star Trek? And immediately everyone was like, Riker.
Star Trek.
Riker.
Yeah,
Riker is so much more horny, man. Like,
well, I mean, like, look at Mr. Spock. They did that whole Vaseline on the lens thing every time you look at a woman. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Which is a fun storytelling device because, like, yes, he feels emotions, he just doesn't show them. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Because Vulcans apparently feel emotions more deeply than humans. They say.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's but
that
yeah, it will
to be logical.
Yeah. Well, the idea was trying to create. Well, I'm actually, one of my goals for this year is to put out more adventure modules because, like, you know, what you want to do is you want to reduce the barrier of entry into your universe, right? And the adventure module for the Sad Hot Dog Man, there we go, was written kind of like for that purpose because we have new character classes in here, and I wanted to give those variant classes, so I wanted to give them like something to do, right? And so this was actually created as kind of like one of the stretch goal options for the Kickstarter, and it's been very successful because like when I go to a show and I'm talking to these people that are trying to be a game master, the smartest advice I can share is run a module, right? Because you've got three basic problems. You have, like, you got the rules, you have the players and their bullshit, and you have the story. Well, take one of those things out of the equation, it makes it a lot easier on you when you've never done it before. And so having a module for sale, like in a prepared adventure that's very cheap and accessible, only $10, that's an easy sell for somebody who wants to try it out. And so I'm planning to produce similar adventures for fantasy, for my own game, for like, for a wide variety of possible customers, so that I could, when I'm approaching somebody and they want to be a game master, then have something that actually is something they want to run. Right. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, you guys do a lot of stuff on YouTube, as far as, like, like you mentioned earlier about like sessions on how to GM, or you guys have also done sessions for some of the modules for Sad Hot Dog Man. You guys have done sessions for Cyber Symbiosis. Like, I like the idea of people being able to go to YouTube and say, hey, I want to check out how this game runs before I go and buy it. Like, it's a pretty cool concept to do that with your own game.
Yeah, well, there's actually two places that you can find my stuff on YouTube. Right now, the most present time stuff is going to be on the Cabot Crossing YouTube channel that my friend Marks runs. Mm-hmm. And so we've got one. I think I have it linked on my website, but they did a play test of one of my games. I took this. I basically ran them through the adventure I'd used for my initial playtest campaign with my home group, and so we've got that first adventure there, and it's broken up into two parts. I call it No Time to Cry, and you can find that in a playlist. And then there's also when I took Marks and Greg and the guys, and they ran them through this adventure. And so you can actually find both of those on the website. So if you want to see how this one goes, you can do it. But, like, it's very different. This adventure is specifically written so that you have multiple routes. There's no one way to accomplish the objective. And as it turned out, Greg and the group picked the least violent option. So it ends up happening where, like, not one person got hurt. But then when my wife runs it, because she informed me that we were going to run a game for Valentine's Day, so I got my friends from Pennsylvania to join in. So we had a couples night, and I was running the game, and boy, there was a body count that night. So when they ran it, so but yeah, and then the other game you can find. So Greg, one of my co-hosts on our show, Art of the Game, he did a channel called Art of the Roll where he was running people through D&D games, live streaming it for a little while. And we had one 3-parter we did on his channel, which I unfortunately left off with a cliffhanger because I only had 3 episodes there. And we had I did a very bad job of keeping the players on task in the first episode. And so what should have been wrapped up easily in 3 episodes should have been 4 episodes, but we never got to finish it. So that leaves off on a cliffhanger, unfortunately. But it also represents the game before the OGL controversy, because when that whole business happened with Hasbro, it took what was a 3-year project of finishing the game and added an extra year onto it. Because then I had to go back and make a lot of changes. And so when that was done was with the original version of it, when I thought it was just going to be a 5e game.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Well, I've got one last question before we get into our wrap-up questions here.
sure.
And this is more just kind of like because you guys have been doing cons, you guys have been doing kind of like fans, and again, you guys interacted with a lot of fans as far as playing the game and everything. Have there been any fan reactions to either RPG, to either property, that have just blown you away?
Oh, there's been a lot. Well, because like in the position I'm in, I don't. I mean, I know there's a fan community out there, and I know there's people playing and using my content, but I usually don't have the opportunity to interact with them that much. So I'm creating content and I'm selling it, and people are buying it. Many are very excited, but like, it's like it's very rare when I hear back. And any way to read online? Well, a lot of my content's on my Miniature Dragon website, James, but
which I posted the link in the
yes, the Sad Hot Dog Man is not there. Just a few of the books are for sale, but we'll be adding more stuff. My wife's very protective of it and is very concerned about how people consume it.
James, if you really want to read it, I have it. So James is my co-host on the show. So
okay, good, all right. But as far as like really memorable interactions, it's interesting because the few times I've met with people who I've sold the books to, and they've come back and tracked me down, like these guys at the SummerCon in Puyallup lately came back and thanked me for selling it to them, and this other kid I met in Spokane who had I ran into him at the Halloween show this year, and he came up and was so excited to see me again because he had bought the book 2 years ago and told me that it's now like the only version of D&D that he plays. Like
awesome.
Yeah, but the one that actually really sticks in my mind, because like usually you don't do refunds at these shows, right? Like it's
right.
But this girl comes back who had bought the book, very excited, wanted to run it, and she was like had realized apparently that she'd overextended herself and she wanted to return the book. And so what I did was it's the only refund I've ever had to issue. I didn't even know if I could, and I did. It's like you got this app on your phone running transactions. It's like I'm being asked to do something I've never needed to know. So I figured out how to do it, and then I have digital copies that I sell that are on flash drives,
right?
Which sometimes people only want digital, so you have to be able for that. So I gave her one of the digital ones for free because she was so interested in it, and it was more important to have somebody who was passionate about your product than it was to whether to make money off of it. Because if she loves it, she might buy more books in the future, right? And when I did that, she was practically in tears. And because I don't think you usually have that kind of relationship with vendors, because it's just transactional for a lot of people.
Yeah,
and
that's a pretty cool interaction. I mean, it's like because you have somebody who's like, this is too much for me, I can't figure this out, and you're like, you know what? Let me show you how this. How the game runs. I'll walk you through it, and it's like, you don't get that. You don't. I mean, it's not like you can go to Wizards of the Coast and they're gonna like go and do something like that.
Not anymore.
Not the way it used to be, right?
Yeah, no.
So it's like and now that they're like massive corporate entity, so
yeah, it's really unfortunate. Like, I mean, but I understand because like the guy that owned Wizards of the Coast, he wanted to do something else, and there's this trend in business where you build the business up, and then you want to sell it. You want to make it valuable and sell it. And that's actually kind of like where I think the cracks with my, Thunderfrog happened for me, because I was putting all this work into basically build this company up and investing all this time. Most of it I wasn't getting paid for, because I just wanted to be, I wanted to make comic books, right? And you're
Right.
just a bunch of guys making stuff. And Thunder Frog is a very small company, and it's like it was an opportunity for me to just collaborate and learn the business. But I'm putting all this effort into it, and the owner had basically announced to let me know that if an offer came, he'd take it. And I'm like, well, what am I doing all this work for? Right. And I want to create comics, but I don't want to have everything that I have created get sold out from underneath me.
Right.
And yeah,
Right.
yeah, because I'm doing this because I love doing it. I love the creation of the stories, and I like writing books, and I want to be successful. But it's like I'm not doing it so I can sell it one day and get a big windfall.
Yeah, because you enjoy it, which is that's what makes a better product. That's what makes a better better stories, because you're invested in it. You're more. This is something that I enjoy making, and I enjoy, and I want this story to be good. So you're not selling it out just so that other people can play it. It's like, hey, I want everybody else around here to enjoy the thing that I'm enjoying.
Absolutely, yeah. If you would like to play either of these games, Sad Hologram Man or Cyber Symbiosis, I'd be very happy to come on and run some for you on your stream at some point.
Would be great. We're actually planning on doing TTRPG games, like online RPG games, starting in January. That's kind of like we're going to be doing, because we do a Friday game night. Right. Okay. We usually do, like tomorrow, we're going to be doing Jackbox games where, people can come on, interact and play games with us. We also do like Jeopardy, and we do like all these different games with all of the hosts and people that want to come and hang out. Starting in January we're going to start scheduling it out, but we're going to be doing a original D&D campaign that one of our co-hosts is running. He wrote the story and everything. And I'm very excited about it. Hence why we did the character creations yesterday, because we're all starting from scratch. And so I think that this would be cool. Both of those guys, by the way, Graveyard, who is my regular co-host on Thursdays, and Shadu, who is our resident D&D guy. Both of those guys, Graveyard is had a work thing that he had to go to tonight, and Shadu is at an event. And it's like both of them, when I told them, I have an RPG guy coming on, they're like, oh, seriously? Then we're not going to be on. You have an RPG guy? Like, yeah. And that's your fault.
I can come back.
And that's what's fun with that is, and then of course our James is mentioning in the chat, Geek Freaks, who is the network we're a part of, the host of their flagship show. He's also a D&D. He's a DM. So I mean, it would be fun for all of us that play, tabletop games to run a game of that Matt Aguilar from comicbook.com too. He's just throwing all the nerds out there.
Well, we can certainly run this. I mean, it's built, it's got pre-gen characters, everything. It'd be very, 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 very easy to run that adventure.
So fun, man. I think we should do both. Like, honestly, we should do Sad Hot Dog Man, but we should also run a game of Cyber Symbiosis. I think that would be fun.
Well, one of the things I actually did in the book, which I think, there's little innovations that I put in this thing, which like there's the sequence in which the book is written actually follows the natural flow of information. Like I jokingly tell people, it's actually written in order. And you'll actually, if you go on my website, there's actually like a commercial we had produced that kind of does my sales pitch. But
I put the link in the chat too, so it's
thank you. But people usually laugh pretty hard. About half the people bust out laughing when I make that joke, because it's like, because usually you got this thing where the book is laid out really weird and things are buried in strange places, and it's like, you have to go to chapter 9 to find the rules rather than, and so like I laid the book out in a very like sequential fashion where if you just read it from the beginning and just read straight through, you wouldn't be stuck with questions. And I put page notations, make it easier to find stuff, which is also very strange. But something else I did in the interest of like, facilitating somebody being able to run the game is I also have this section in the back where I've got these charts where you just like, it's hard to see on the camera, but it's a random roll chart, and you just throw down some percentile dice and you have 101 adventure ideas in here It's on page 366 of the book you have, but you can just throw down some dice and you have adventure hooks ready to go to make it easier to run the game. And I did the same thing with this book, where there's 51 of them in here, so that if you wanted to keep playing that adventure and you enjoyed the characters that are there in that world, there's even more. It just keeps going.
2 pages away. All right. Oh yeah, right here.
Yeah, you just grab a percentile die, throw them down, and then there you go. You have an immediate idea.
Yeah. Freelance adventure hooks, guys. So
yeah,
again, for anybody that is interested in this game, I'm gonna let you do the sales pitch here in a second. But I mean,
okay.
Guys, 100% definitely something. I know that we're going to be playing it on our channel, especially since we're going to be doing game nights. But if you want to try this out yourself, guys, there are multiple places where you can get this, specifically on their website on let me put that
miniaturedragon.com. Well, so right now physical fulfillment is a little difficult for me to do. I could, if somebody had wanted to reach out to me and they must have a physical book, but you can get a digital download on my website. It links to my Patreon, where they have an option to purchase it. And so yeah, you can definitely get the book there. But we also, on my website, we also have a quick start section. You'll find a link in there to a page where we have a quick start version of the rules, which basically takes whatever your D&D game is and just shows you what the changes are, for Cyber Symbiosis. Because there's a few little things we did differently, like we used proficiency die, for example. And then there's also a quick start adventure there with pre-generated characters, so you could sit down, play that adventure, and figure out, is this even a product I want, before you even have to buy the book.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
I love that. Again, there's so much interaction. There's so much. There's so much that you've put in place for people to try it before they buy it, and I love that. It's really good. So yeah, we're gonna jump into some wrap up questions here before we finish up the show here. So I'm gonna ask you one of the hardest questions you've ever been asked in your life.
Okay. Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
All right, man. What is your favorite kind of taco?
Oh. Well, I think I like soft tacos. Okay. So we used to get a lot of them from Taco Bell, and the soft tacos are way easier to do. They're like mini burritos. I would never eat Taco Bell now. I've had to watch my health. But probably when I make them, I usually get hard shells though, and then I ground beef.
Okay.
Yeah, they can't be oily though. I just cook the meat. I don't get all that taco seasoning. I do not like taco seasoning.
I was gonna say what I do a lot of ground turkey, but then also there's if you want stuff that's less greasy, Morningstar makes a veggie crumble that actually is really good that I've put in tacos.
Yeah, and I actually would just rather get a package of hamburger at the store. Plus it lasts longer than turkey, which is interesting.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. The Morningstar veggie crumbles are actually pretty good. They're surprisingly good. I was not expecting them to be as good as they are.
Well, you don't want to get me into that topic, because I when I was 22, I discovered I was allergic to sugar. So I'm going to, if you get me started, I have this whole spiel on it, because I had to understand it, because what was happening, right? But yeah, I will probably, if you get me to explain it, I will probably have most of your audience will get really mad, because then they won't want to drink Coke anymore or any of that stuff. So
don't take Coke. Don't take Coke and Mountain Dew away from nerds. They're
no
riot.
Well, it got taken away from me.
Yeah, and though we're expecting riots. All right, so what, in your opinion, is the worst sci-fi movie franchise?
Oh, good Lord! I wish you'd had these questions given to me before I came, because I don't. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
That's fine.
But it's like I okay. Actually, I do have one, because it's not a movie, but I would consider Sliders actually one of the worst, in as much as not that it was a terrible show, because the first season was absolute genius, but the problem with it was that I think it suffered too much from studio interference, and it also was literally like missed opportunities, right? Because Like they didn't do with the show what they should have done, because the problem with the sliders is that if you're watching the show and you're basically looking at people and going, you're idiots, well, you should have done this, right, and this, because that's what I would have done in that situation. And everybody has had that reaction to the show. So if that's the basic reaction, the show's a failure, right? Like, and I'm not saying it wasn't good, but the thing is they needed to pick a planet. The first planet they landed on, where like when they they go to the ice planet, then they come back to another world which is just like their own but slightly different. You stay there, okay, because it has everything you need. It's not far from where you started from, because it's very close, but like it also has everything you need, and you're not there. So that means you can just fit into your old life on that world. And okay, your dad's alive, that's great, but you don't leave because you need the resources to find your own world. Instead, they took off on some stupid adventure where they got so far from home they'll never get back.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
that's kind of the issue with a lot of franchises, is just kind of, it's
Yeah.
I think some of them are starting to realize, some of the studios are starting to realize that one, let creators create, two, less is better if the quality is better.
See, I don't think they've learned that at all. I think that there's too many egos in Hollywood. I mean, like the reason why James Gunn gets to create, because he's proven himself.
Yeah.
Because they knew that he was a brand that was successful, and Marvel made the mistake of letting him go, and DC snatches him up and go, here, we will take you. And that was the ultimate coup in Hollywood, because it made Marvel look bad.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like that. What a mistake. Right. And then he comes in and delivers Superman. Oh my God, that movie was fantastic.
Good. Yes.
Yeah. So
for all the haters out there, that movie was good. Stop.
It was good. Yeah. But the only reason that he got that freedom was because he had proven himself already.
Absolutely.
But most creators still have to deal with like studio interference, because it's not your money, it's their money.
Well, I mean, and I'm not going to go on my tangents on this, but I've complained a lot about Warner Brothers specifically putting their hands in the cookie jar and messing everything up. About Sony putting their hands in the cookie jar and messing everything up that they touch.
Yeah, I want to see Sony just stop, just stop, and like Marvel Studios knows what they're doing. Let them make these movies for you.
Absolutely, I agree. And I mean, that's part of the reason why we're getting Beyond the Spider-Verse pushed out 3 more years. It's coming out in 2027. Because it got pushed out so far because of studio interference, because they were like, oh well, you know what, they had a really good run, and the first 2 movies were amazing, but we don't want to go in the direction that they're going in. We're not going to give Miller and Lord what they're doing, so we want it to go in our direction. And it's like, stop trying to move it in your direction, let them tell their story, and then go.
Yeah, well, like when I mean, obviously there's going to be missteps, but in general, I think when you like you need to get behind the vision of the creator, because like you look at Zack Snyder's his Justice League, right?
And that's what I always complain about, because the studio messed that up. The vision that he had laid out was so much better than what we got, and it was because Warner Brothers put their hands in there.
Well, and it might have failed. I mean, like we don't know. We just know that when he tried to relaunch it, and he tried to actually relaunch it to revive his vision, which I don't blame him. Right. I would have done that too, but like, because he put more into it, but like, you're investing in this series, you need to back your guy, right? And it the same thing happened with Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad was a failure, but it was like, it's weird how similar that movie was to League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
It really was. It really was. Yeah.
But like the movie failed because somebody blinked rather than committing to the story that they were actually going to tell. And
well, the other thing was the editing studio they gave that to, because they gave it to a trailer editing studio rather than a professional editing studio, and it's like the movie plays like 1 2-hour trailer.
Right, but also like they completely did a hack job on the story, and they tried to turn it into a comedy, and it never was. Like there was Amanda Waller was actually the one that caused the disaster, and she used her mess as an excuse to manipulate control over the supervillains, right? So she's just taking this mess she created and using it to get what she wants. But it's like, what an interesting story where there's no good guys. and they had the chance to tell that story, and they didn't do it.
Right.
And missed opportunities.
Very much so. And I'm still behind the release the Ayer cut, because David Ayer had a whole different movie that he had planned.
Yeah,
so.
but they never will. I mean,
No, they won't. They won't.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
like actual money. They just like, upfront.
And I do want to say I'm not saying that the like that Snyder's vision for Justice League was better. Like it was just like because like I hate saying this, but he should never have made the movie in the first place, because like the guy that made the Watchmen in 300 was not necessarily the guy that was going to be making this, the new Superman. It should not have been, because I think that Henry Cavill never got the chance to actually be Superman
At all.
for real. But the thing is that he had a vision. The vision he had was compelling. It wasn't the vision that people may have really wanted. Maybe it wasn't the right one, but it was going to go in an interesting direction.
And it was very deep. Alan Moore, Frank Miller, lived in those universes. It was very dark, because the version of Superman we got was very much the Dark Knight Returns, like the Superman
exactly.
Returns.
And I would like to have seen where it was all going, and it just never happened. But it's like I know that people complain about the Joker in that universe, and I have to say I like that Joker, because I don't like the Joker. Like as a character, he like the person that's just evil for the sake of being evil does not appeal to me, and it's disturbing, and it's uncomfortable, and it's not fun to read. And I want my comics to be fun, and but they did something with the Joker that was interesting, because like the Joker is kind of like always the same thing. It's a Jack Nicholson basically, and they did something with this character that I don't like, a character which I'm disinterested in, and made him interesting for the first time to me, and because they did something new, and they took risks with it, and I like that. But
see, that's what I liked about Heath Ledger's Joker. I mean, we're going super off tangent, but I mean, like
that's okay. I've got the time.
No worries. I mean, that's what I liked about Heath Ledger's Joker. It was going down the darker version of the Joker, but I mean, at the same time, it was the shaky narrator. It was the and it was intentional. It wasn't just he's a psychopath and he's not remembering things right. He intentionally told different stories because he didn't want people to know what he was. There's theories online about Heath Ledger's version of the Joker being a former special forces operative, and that's why he is able to do a lot of the things that he does, and that's why he knows psychological warfare the way that he does. And it's like, it makes sense when you look at the things that he has. He's a pinpoint sniper in one scene. It's kind of like there's training there. And him being a nihilistic anarchist makes sense.
Well, there's an interesting thing about the Joker as a character, where there's a point, there's an event in DC where somebody did that whammy that takes away superpowers, and they did the Joker, and he became sane.
Yeah,
right. Where the idea is that he has super sanity, and but they never actually say what that means. So I've kind of got this project where I'm trying to like, okay, well, what if that was a character class? I'm trying to like, I have these weird concept characters I come up with where it's like, let's take this one idea. Can we make that playable? But the idea of super sanity is an interesting idea, because he works. He's effective in a way because he isn't constrained. Right. Like he has no, there's no filter. There's nothing holding him back. He is all in on everything he's doing. And it's about that joke. It's about that punchline. But like, he doesn't doubt himself ever. And anyone else would. Right. And it's, I guess that's the power of Batman, because Batman doesn't doubt himself either. That's probably why he can do what he can do.
And that's why mirrors of each other.
Yeah, exactly. But Joker just goes in and is like, I'm just going to do it. And it never occurs to him he can't. And there's actually an interesting lesson there, I think, for everybody, because like, what holds us back is the idea that we can't. We second guess ourselves, and we shouldn't be doing that. Because when you consider failure as an option, then you are inviting it into your life, right? You shouldn't be thinking that way. You should just go in and just be, let's find a way to make this work.
Right.
Yeah.
100% agree. We're staying in the realm of comic books here, right? Because my next question here was, who would win in a fight? This is a hypothetical fight. Okay.
Oh dear, here we go.
Sad hot dog man with a ray gun versus versus the Condiment King.
Okay, well, I don't know that much about the Condiment King, but I suspect the ray gun would burn him down. However, I counter your proposal because I have this idea for a comic book story where it's beat for beat, like the beginning of the Tim Burton Batman, right?
Okay.
Except that except you never actually see Batman, right? And then he's got the guy holding over the edge, and he guy goes, "Who are you?" And he brings in, and it's a sad hot dog man, one of those people dressed as Batman, and he calls himself Bratman. He says, "I'm Bratman." I'm Bratman. Yeah. So we have this idea, and I'm just trying to figure out what to do with it because like it's just a joke. It's not enough to anchor a story, but the idea of Bratman as a superhero character, I would put Bratman down.
Bratman versus Condiment King, and Condiment King is I mean, he's mostly a Flash villain, but he has fought Batman in the past, so that's
right. And then Condiment King's like, what the hell is this, right?
Right.
Yeah. And also, by the way, there's not supposed to be condiments in the Sad Hot Dog Man universe, so we've kind of compromised and said that the mustard on the bun is their war paint.
The mustard
is on the hot dog war paint. Yeah.
That's pretty funny. And again, I was just like, who am I going to put up against Sad Hot Dog Man? I was like, Condiment King. Let's go Condiment King.
Well, yeah. Well, there's actually artwork of the Sad Hot Dog Man as a monk. There is a plan for the character. But I actually, so we're play testing a character class. It's a martial arts variant called Way of the Tong, where you fight with hot dog tongs.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. And so as a martial arts technique, one of the things I want to do, because like there's a criticism of the monk in D&D that the only thing they really do well is flurry of blows, but that doesn't even remotely reflect actual martial arts. And so I'm kind of like playing with some ideas of like, how can we reinvent this so that you don't have flurry of blows, but yet you're still an effective hand-to-hand combatant. And so I'm kind of like messing around with some ideas there. And so the Way of the Tong is like the first of that, where it's more of a grappler, kind of like it kind of plays like a Aikido.
That's so interesting. Oh man, and this just gives me more excitement to want to play the game. You know, start playing the game. So what's next for you, man? Do you have any cons that are coming up? Do you guys have any new campaigns that are coming out?
Well, we just wrapped up our last convention of the year. We were at a holiday gift expo at Magnuson Park, which is very nerd themed, and that was very successful. Had a really good time, and a lot of people were shopping. So that was actually a weird one because the first year I was there, it was like pulling teeth selling my books because people are shopping for other people, not themselves. But like I sold, all my sales were stocking stuffers. It was just dice. And this year was pretty similar, but yeah, we're going to be at the Fan Expo in Portland in January.
Okay.
And we're going to be at all our usual stuff. We go to the SummerCon. We'll be at Emerald City Comic Con this year, and we'll be all throughout Washington State. I'm definitely going to be doing as many Oregon shows as I can, but it'll be a little tricky with my new job, so I'm still trying to figure all that out.
Gotcha.
But we are going to be. It's Gem State, I believe, is the one in Idaho.
Yeah, so we'll be at Gem State. We'll see you there.
Yeah, we were able to get into Gem State due to shenanigans, but yeah, we got into that one. So I would like to go back to Tri-Cities Powerhouse, but I don't think I can this year. I was going to, but we had with the new job, I only have so much PTO available. So we're gonna probably have to put that one off a year or two. So we'll see how it goes. I'll talk to you about the job thing behind when we're off camera. But that's been interesting. It's definitely been a big improvement though. Like it's a step up for me with the new gig. But the goal ultimately is to be able to do this professionally. And so part of the reason why I started doing the RPG was because like the comic books weren't quite making it. Well, I want to be a writer. I have to create my opportunities, right?
Right.
And so, so we release all the graphic novels now as if they're source books. So it's like, and the plan is just build it out, but like build it in a way where it's like, it's creating useful content, because people could pick up the graphic novel you've got and they could read the book. It's a fun read, but then they've also got all the content in the back that they can treat it like it was a setting book and build off that.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, where can everybody find you, man? Where's if they want to follow and learn more about not only just Woody Arnold, but everything that you're doing. All that well, give me all your pluggables, man.
Okay. Sorry, my wife had changed our Instagram. Let me pull that up here. Here we go. Okay. So on Instagram, we're Miniature Dragon Comics with underscores in between each word.
Got that on right now.
Yeah. And then you also will find us at miniaturedragon.com, where I update comic pages. I have comics I release as a web format, mostly weekly. It's hard to keep up on it when I've got conventions. And I had several in a row, so I'm a little bit behind. But I've got this fun book I'm putting out right now. I call it Is Among Us, and it's basically the game Among Us, but as if the characters are dressed up as D&D characters. And so it's like I kind of do the story similar to The Thing, or inspired.
That almost seems like something that they would do.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I believe it's on my main page. It's just called It Is Among Us, and it's not done yet. We still have some pages to release, but it kind of like, it gets very much into the paranoia and the panic of having some monster, and when it falls apart fast, and it gets brutal. And so I'm having a good time with that one. But I like it. Posting pages on that stuff is hard when I've got a convention week, and I had several in a row. That's at the end of the year. But yeah, I've got that wrapped. So that'll be wrapping up around the early January. And then you also will find me at the Cabot Crossing YouTube channel, where I do the show Art of the Roll with Marks and Greg, where we talk about GMing technique. And a lot of the topics we discuss actually come out of my conventions, because I'll be talking to people, and then I have all these stories people are talking to me about what they're doing, and I listen, like some of the problems these guys are having, and then that becomes a topic. Our last episode came out of one of that, because this gentleman was running, his family drafts him into being the game master for the group because they all want to play. Okay, Dad, you're the GM, and he's all upset because they want to go run a hotel franchise instead of go on the fantasy adventures, and they've gotten too wealthy, and he didn't know what to do. So I took him aside and had a little talk. I gave him the talk.
Gave him the talk.
Yeah. So it probably will result in some of the hotels getting burned down. But we took that experience and turned that into our last episode of our season for the year. So I like talking to people at cons, and like finding out what kind of challenges they're having, and then like how can we address those.
All right. That's always fun. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check out those pages. Again, follow them on Instagram, check out the website, pick up the book, guys. If you're a tabletop gamer, Cyber Symbiosis is definitely the way to go. Great game. Again, there is a companion comic book. It gives you all the lore, kind of everything that's going on in that.
And I want to put out that when you get my digital download for my RPG, it's pre-bookmarked. Nice. Yeah, so you can't get lost. It'll be very, very easy to use. It'll be I'm trying to set the gold standard for how these things should be.
I like
to be laid out.
I like that, and it's good, because then other people will like follow the lead, right? And then of course on the side, this is Woody's wife's book here, but Sad Hot Dog Man, definitely something to pick up. It is a very interesting read, and that'll lead you into the tabletop game, guys. So make sure that you're supporting indie, supporting the TTRPGs. Again, Woody, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show and hanging out, nerding out with me here for the last hour and 40 minutes. So again, I appreciate you, man. For the rest of us out there, again, one more time, give us your social media places where people can find you here.
Well, I'm at miniaturedragon.com, and then you find me at Cabot Crossing on YouTube, 2 B's, and then it's a miniature. Wait, and then our Instagram is Miniature Dragon Comics with underscores between the words, and you should find us pretty easily there. My wife is usually posting more when we have a show.
There you go.
Yeah.
And of course, ladies and gentlemen, you know who I am, your boy Young Phil. Join us on distancelearning.com. Join the taco party, you guys. You join the taco party, it makes it so we can do more shows. The best way to support the show. It helps us out. Now, have something you want to discuss, connect with us on all the social media places. If it is social media and it exists, we are there at Distance Nerding, or you can send us an email. We will read it live on the show at distancenerding@aol.com. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is it from us tonight. Again, thank you, Woody, for coming on the show and hanging out. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks, and keep nerding together. We'll see everybody we'll see everybody tomorrow for game night. So remember, guys, Jackbox games. And Bruce, buddy, it's time to go to sleep. It's not night time. Go to bed, buddy. Thanks, and keep nerding together, guys. We'll see everybody tomorrow night.
Distance Nerding.